is For Gardens. This is a game from Arcane Wonders. They sent us a big stack of stuff, and we're nearing the end of that big old pile of stuff that they sent us to review. This was not saved for last for any particular reason, and it looks like a lot of fun. It's a pretty simple game, but let's go over how this works. First off, the setup is already done. We've got a little scoreboard over here. This is going to be our victory points. There are 4 different gods with which you can score points. And you can score up to 10 with each of them. There's ways to reduce other people's scores, though, too. And then there's ways to score bonus points. We'll talk about all of that in a little bit. All of these bonus tiles during the setup are stacked in descending order, because whoever gets to them first gets more from them.
Early bird.
And then the pagoda, blissfully, most of this assembly, now that it's done, this can go back into the box mostly assembled, which I think is crucial since so much of it is made of cardboard. All of these little pieces spin independently of one another. That's going to be a mechanic that comes in throughout the game. But when you put it back in the box, you can take these pieces apart and just put this whole chunk back into the box, which is nice.
And that took 24 hours, 25 hours, something like that.
I did it all last night. So. Over here, we've got a deck of landscape cards with the landscape side face up. We'll call that the back of the card. And then on the front of the card are these groundwork faces. Everybody's been dealt 5 of these for their starting hand, and then there's 3 on the display here. Also, we've got 4 different types of resources in their respective piles around the pagoda. Everybody in their personal supply, like I said, has those 5 cards and a planning tile that has 4 holes in it. So that is the setup of the game. Now, into how the game is played. On your turn, first off, the rule book says that the first player is the person who went to a pagoda most recently. I don't know if we'll do that. We'll probably just roll our name die, because we haven't. On your turn, you're going to perform 3 actions. Every one of those actions requires you to play or discard one of these cards. Let's go over those possible 4 actions. The first one you can take is to lay groundwork, where you will play one of the cards from your hand face up into your personal garden. The rules on laying groundwork, you can only have 3 active groundwork cards at a time, meaning only 3 cards in your garden that are this face up. Okay. Your objective is to flip them over to this side to get points from them. You can only have 3 active at a time. You also cannot have duplicates. There's a section up here in the top right that has these little pips on it and a colored banner to indicate what panorama that card belongs to. Because as you start successfully laying multiples down, you'll see that they line up and form a beautiful panorama.
Ah, okay.
So you cannot ever have more. Once you've played the second spot in the teal panorama to your garden, you can never play another one of those again.
Understood.
Okay.
So those are the restrictions on laying groundwork. The other actions you can take, first off, for a simple one, there's 2 sections to these cards. The rest of the actions will be discarding these cards. If you discard a card, you can take one of the actions that is listed in the top half. All of them have this one. I'll talk about that one in a second. The other ones will have something that looks like this or something that looks like this. This is take a wild resource of your choice from the supply, meaning take any one of the 4 resources that are in the middle of the table. So you can discard a card that has this icon on it to take a resource of your choice from the supply. When you take a resource, you got to put it either in an empty hole in your planning tile or onto one of the matching icons on a groundwork card that's face up in your garden already.
Okay.
So I can take this and put it here. But not if I'm discarding that card, obviously, because then it's not in my card. So that's the take a wild resource. Very simple. This one over here is the rotate and collect action. Let me move that where people can see it. The rotate and collect action will have one section of the pagoda highlighted in black. Anything above it will be in gray. There's a little double-sided rotate arrow next to it, and then another arrow over here that's either going from the top down or from the bottom up. So what this means is when you discard a card that has an icon that looks like this, you will get to rotate that section of the pagoda along with every section that is on top of it, so that different sections of the pagoda are now facing you. When you play the card, you rotate it 90 degrees either to the left or to the right. So you can't flip it all the way around, but you can flip it. If this is what's facing me, I can either go this way or I can go this way. And with a different section highlighted, I would only be rotating that section and whatever's on top of it.
Understood. Okay.
Then, once I've done the rotation, I get to collect the resources that are now facing me based on these icons, either from top to bottom or from bottom to top, depending on what the card showed me. The reason that matters is because you've only got 4 holes in your planning tile. So at most, you're going to get 4 resources from this action. You don't get to play any of these resources directly onto your groundwork cards. When you take these resources, they go to your planning tile. So in this case, if I'm collecting these resources, I'm going to take 1 of these guys, I'm going to take 2 of these guys, and then I'm supposed to take 3 of these, but I've only got 1 spot left, so I'm just going to take 1. That is the rotate and collect action. The last action is this little wheelbarrow here. When you discard a card that has to play that action, and they all have it, you can reallocate the resources that are in your supply. When you take the reallocate action, you discard a card that's got that icon on it, and then you can move stuff around either between active groundwork cards. You can go back and forth, see if they've got the same stuff. If you're like, oh, I'm 1 green thing away from finishing this one, I'll move it off of a different card onto this one. You can move stuff in and out of your planning board here. And this is the only way you can get rid of resources you don't want from your planning board, is when you take the reallocate action. So, 3 actions per turn. You can double up, do the same action more than once. To recap, those 4 possible actions are lay groundwork, where you play a card from your hand face up into your garden. You can collect wilds based on this icon, where you just take 1 random or one resource of your choice from the supply and put it either on your planning board or directly on a groundwork card.
Do you lose that card when you
Yes, you have to discard the card to take one of these actions. The rotate and collect action, where you rotate the pagoda and take whatever's listed there, and the reallocate action, where you get to move stuff around. If you complete a groundwork card, then those resources immediately go back to the supply. You flip the card over, and you advance on the score track 1 space that matches that particular god icon. If you get all the way to the 10 space on a god track and you're supposed to advance again, instead you bump everybody else back a space on that.
Okay, gotcha.
So if somebody's here, I think this is Tony's guy, then you bump everybody back.
Religious warfare. That's why I came.
If you get bumped all the way off, you don't get to come back.
Oof.
You don't get to score any points for that god at the end of the game.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of a risk management thing happening in this game, where you're trying to make sure, while you're probably going to end up focusing on trying to score as many points as possible with a certain god or gods, the ones you don't want to neglect anybody, because then you'll lose points at the end of the, or you're just not scoring as many points at the end of the game. 2 is not the minimum, 0 is, and then there's no coming back from that. If you complete a second card in the same panorama, you gain the new card's reward and any cards that you already completed in that panorama again.
Oh, okay.
And when you completely finish a panorama, meaning you have all, in this case, 4 of these cards flipped onto this side in your garden, you also get to claim one of these bonus tokens of your choice. This one is worth that many points at the end of the game. This one, you immediately get to take that many wild resources. And this one adds a spot to your planning board.
Oh, okay, very nice.
You can only have 1 of each.
So you had said that you can only have 3 up this way at a time, but once they're flipped over, they no longer count.
They're no longer active,
Right.
so yes, you can have more. Because the game, the end game condition is once one player has finished in a 4-player game 8 cards, then we finish that round so that everybody's had an equal number of turns. Then we look at the scoreboard for final scoring and any of these bonus tokens, and whoever has the most points wins.
Maybe you mentioned this and I missed it, but when we discard a card, right, and then on our turn we get to pull a card?
After you've taken all 3 of your actions, you'll then draw back up to a hand of 5 cards.
Okay.
You can choose to draw either from here or from the display.
Ooh,
if you take
okay.
anything from the display, you don't refill it until you're done refilling your hand. Some of these cards have a wild god icon.
Oh.
When you finish one of those, you get to choose which god to advance your score track
Fancy.
with. And I do believe that, like, if that's the first card I finish in this panorama, when I finish another one, I can choose a different god for the same card.
And it has to be a god that's in game. It can't just be.
Can't be Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for checking out BNB Tabletop, the home of the Board and Barrel. A live show every Sunday night at 5 p.m. Pacific where me and my buddies play board games. If you haven't seen it, you're missing out. We like to keep things interactive with our Buff and Nerf house rules that allow you to influence the course of the game, and virtual bingo cards that could win you a free board game of your own. So do us a favor, do yourself a favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell. Thanks again for stopping by. We'll see you Sunday night.